Hi, everyone, and thank you, and welcome to another episode of the Jason's Take On. Today, we are very excited to have a special guest. We have Szuyin Leow, who is the Director of Customer Success at LogicGate with us. We're really excited to be here. For those of you who don't know, LogicGate is a software company that's focused on GRC, which is governance, risk, and compliance. And this is an area where I think a lot of companies need help, and many organizations really lack the in-house expertise to focus on this area and do it right. And as a result of this, I had a great conversation with Szuyin, and she was talking about her organization. She's had to closely examine, what are the expertise and professional services that they need to bring to customers to really help them achieve success, since a lot of organizations don't have that expertise in-house. So she's had to look past some traditional roles and CS models to figure out what's the right balance of product expertise and customer success expertise and subject matter expertise in the governance, risk, and compliance space to really make sure that she's getting what customers need and where they are. So we're excited here today to have Szuyin with us because her situation is a great example of how companies need to really look closely at the skills and structures and processes that they need to bring to their customers to help them achieve success. And it really makes us have to say, are we doing the right thing? Thank you so much for being here today. Just to jump in, could you please just go ahead and tell everyone a little bit about yourself and your background and a high-level introduction to LogicGate?
Absolutely. And thank you for having me today. Really excited to have this discussion with both of you Jasons. So myself, prior to working at LogicGate, I actually started my career as a cybersecurity consultant at PwC. And as a consultant, I was working with my clients to help them assess their information security programs and their maturity and really advise them on how to design and implement those programs and processes. So came from a pretty technical background and now able to apply that knowledge and experience with our customer success team at LogicGate. And similar to myself, all of our customer success team members at LogicGate come from a background in consulting and in GRC. And we use that experience and expertise to help our customers operationalize their GRC programs in our Risk Cloud platform, which provides a flexible data model that can help each organization accommodate their unique risk and compliance requirements.
I think that background coming from PwC and consultancy just gives you a fascinating and broad kind of mindset and experience to come into customer success, because something we talk about a lot is it just covers so many different areas. And I think that consulting background really puts you and your team, and it's exciting to hear that it's not just you, it's your team that have got this consulting background in a really good position with your customers. I think the whole area of governance, risk, and compliance it's a huge area, but perhaps something that some of our listeners aren't very familiar with. And I wonder if there are a couple of kind of highlights you could share with us as to what type of companies you deal with, as customers, what kind of requirements they have when they come to you, and some of the level of expertise that you guys bring around GRC practices and processes. So it's a huge area that impacts every single one of us out there, but it's something that quite often people don't know much about.
You are 100% correct. It is a huge area, but yeah, most of the time when I tell people I work in GRC, they have no idea what I'm talking about. But it is something that applies to nearly every organization. When you think about it, almost every company today is in the data business, right? We all have information we need to protect. And that's one of the core areas of GRC is around risk management and information security risk management. And what controls are we putting in place to protect our organizations against something like a data breach? But we also work on use cases like third-party risk management, so understanding your ecosystem of vendors and suppliers and doing your due diligence to make sure that those critical pieces are in place. Another area that I think anyone can relate to is with the current environment of COVID-19 and the pandemic we're in, business continuity management is very key for every single organization. And so these are some of the areas that we help our customers with in the GRC space.
Wow, very good. Very cool. It's such an interesting space. I think since you do have to have that deep expertise, this is not something you can just sort of roll in and wing it, where I think a lot of customer success folks, they don't necessarily need to have the deep industry expertise and subject matter knowledge. When we were first chatting, you shared with me some stories about how when you were first setting up your CS team and how you were structuring it. And really, you shared a little bit about what is the blend between customer success versus more of a professional services that people need in there. And you said you've also learned a lot over the last few years having been there, and that you need to shift some things going forward. Can you tell us a little bit about what was the original structure and approach you took and why you took that approach? And then what made you realize you needed to make some changes?
Yeah, absolutely. Similar to myself, our LogicGate founders also actually came from a background in consulting. So our three founders are now our CEO, our Chief Product Officer, and our Chief Technology Officer, respectively. And we all have that deep, intimate knowledge of how complex the GRC space can be. And so with that, we made a very intentional decision, like we said, to hire all of our customer success team members from consulting firms like PwC, Deloitte, EY, et cetera. And the reason why is because with the complexity of the GRC space, we also have customers who are coming to us at multiple different levels of maturity. So some of our customers are at the very early days of spinning up a GRC program. It's brand new, and they're really looking for us to bring that expertise to advise them on best practices and give them standard templates that they can use out of the box. While on the flip side of that, we also work with very established organizations in the enterprise who support highly complex organizations, and they're looking for a tool and a data model that they can highly customize and configure to meet their unique hierarchy and methodology. And so in both of those cases, there's so much knowledge and expertise required to support both levels of maturity. So we really found that subject matter expertise from our consultants was really critical to deliver on the right experience. So we're not only giving our customers a technology platform, but really delivering on a true partnership where we can provide that consultative approach. So that's why we decided to start that way. And for a lot of the consultants that we hired in our early days when we were an early stage startup, they were really excited about the opportunity to be able to wear multiple hats. Initially, our CSMs, they were onboarding project managers, they were solution architects, they were implementation specialists, plus account managers, plus our technical support team. They did it all across the entire customer journey. And a great benefit of that was that we were able to develop really incredibly deep relationships with our customers, and they felt like they had a dedicated partner throughout the entire partnership. However, certainly as we've grown over the past couple of years, we've had to face the fact that approach, while it's great at developing those deep relationships, it's not sustainable as we look to scale the organization. And so we are currently actually right in the middle of the process of going through a transformation and restructure of what we're calling our global customer organization long term. And with that, we will have more defined functions to allow all of our team members to specialize and focus in areas like implementation versus ongoing professional services versus more traditional customer success, customer support, et cetera.
What's the kind of current size of your customer facing team then?
Yeah, great question. So on our customer success team today, we have about 15 folks, and then we also have a partner program or function that we call relationship management that handles more of the commercial aspects of upsell, growth, expansion, et cetera.
Excellent. And how do you, as you go through this transformation, how are you working to balance that blend between the amount of time that your CSMs do consulting type work, very consultative approach, versus the more pure CSM type task? I think it's a very typical and difficult balance to get. And I think you've done the right thing going through that transformation, but how do you manage that transformation? I think then how do you also manage the kind of priorities between the subject matter expertise in governance, risk and compliance versus them as a customer success expert? How do you balance those two priorities off?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. And to be very honest with you, myself, when I started at LogicGate and was helping to spin up our customer success team, I honestly had really no idea what customer success was.
It's not uncommon.
Yeah, the phrases like NPS score and net revenue retention, these are concepts that were not in my everyday vocabulary. And I think the same is true for all of our customer success team members today. So absolutely, we've become much more thoughtful as we've grown about how do we continue to highlight and take advantage of the subject matter expertise that our current former consultants bring. And really, when we've talked with our customers, they they say that experience is a differentiator for us and one of the key reasons why they love our partnership. But obviously, we also need to make sure that we're focusing enough on our organization's goals and making sure that we're supporting LogicGate, the company, and embracing the things that have made customer success a critical organization in other functions. And the way that we're looking to balance that is we don't have any plans in the near future to change our hiring approach. We definitely see the value in continuing to invest in subject matter experts. But certainly we are revisiting our objectives and key results that we measure those team members on, our onboarding approach to make sure that they understand the fundamentals of ultimately how we are looking to support the business and drive retention, drive renewals, drive expansion, et cetera. And so I don't know if I know exactly like the balance or if we have a specific percentage breakdown, but absolutely it's something we're being very thoughtful about employing in our everyday procedures.
I think that you'll see, I love the approach of subject matter experts on the kind of industry side of it. And I think it's what your customers really are going to be looking for. And as long as you've got that onboarding, these people come on board, train them as to what customer success is. And even that in its own right is evolving and changing, not just as an industry, but as your organization grows, as you go through your organization transformations, that's all changing. So as long as you do your onboarding right, I think you've got a really good approach. And I love the idea of bringing more people with that consultancy background in, because I think it's people that are really very well motivated. They're going to fit very well into these roles.
Yeah. You know, and I'm also wondering into that is, it sounds like if you're bringing in this deep industry expertise and knowledge, that it doesn't really lend itself well to customers who are really just looking for a completely low touch, tech touch approach. It sounds like you're working very closely with your customers. Is that correct?
That is correct for the most part. And that definitely rang true, especially during our first year or two. Certainly, though, as we look to continue to expand within the market, we are hearing more of a demand for a low touch option, something that SMBs can utilize. So that's something we're exploring. And another area where we've actually found that having this in-house subject matter expertise has been really valuable, because for those customers who are looking for low touch, something that can just be deployed out of the box, they want real confidence that what they are deploying is based on the best practice and what other people do and has been validated. And so when we can speak to the fact that our methodology that comes out of the box has been built by these experts with years of experience, it helps a lot from selling in that perspective as well.
You know, and I think that's such a good point too, around the customer wanting confidence, and because especially in your industry with just such a niche, really trying to get the customers to change how they do business and look at their processes and their operations. That's really hard. I find that's where a lot of organizations struggle, a lot of CS groups struggle, is trying to get their customers to make meaningful change in their organization to how they run their operations, to better use the software, to better use the tools. And I think with the GRC in particular space, where you've got to be compliant, you've got to do things in a certain way, that's really critical. So I'm curious, with that as a setup here, you know, how do you go about getting your customers to really change how they operate their business, where so many other folks struggle around? It's so critical. Are there specific actions or key questions you recommend that customer success professionals use to, you know, get the customer to think differently about what needs to change and hopefully start taking action even before they touch new technology or product? You know, and how do you shift that customer's mindset and behavior?
Yeah. That change management aspect is something that I think everyone knows is one of the hardest pieces of getting customers to adopt and fully ramp up with any technology. We have a couple very simple, I would say, best practices that we look to align with all of our customers on during our kickoff call from day one of our partnership and implementation. The key things that we ask them to focus on are, we know that a technology can't be successful if it doesn't have the right people and processes to support it. To enforce and enable that with our customers, we ask questions that, like I said, are simple, but it's around, do you have the right people at the table? And with those people at the table, have you worked with them to clearly define and align your core requirements? And we make sure that we get that alignment before we even jump into designing the platform. Another key thing that we try and focus on with our customers is making sure that while we do want that alignment up front, they do not need to have everything perfect on day one. Part of this is enabled because of our flexible technology that we have, where they have very much so the ability to make adjustments to their configuration and their data structure past their initial implementation. But I also think it's an important concept for really any person owning a technology to approach, is that if you're trying to get everything super perfect and fully robust with your initial rollout, most likely that's going to make that process more complex and harder for your end users to adopt and harder for your admins to manage and administer long term. So we really try and push the keep it simple approach as much as possible. And that's another area where our consultants provide a lot of value to our customers, of calling out areas where maybe they are overcomplicating things a little bit up front. So yeah, I think those are some of the core things. More broadly, another initiative that we are working on in the realm of change management is, like you said, in the GRC space. I think a lot of our customers that we are working with, they have struggled as professionals as being seen as the people that are the rule enforcers, or like the checkbox activity that their organization needs to perform. And definitely one of the things that we're looking to enable through our technology is helping them change that culture in their organization and change the way that they are viewed in their company, so that they can be seen as a business enabler and not just red tape and something that that is that checkbox activity. And a core thing that, or core way that we are driving that with our customers is with risk. People don't really care about measuring risk unless it's actually contextualized within the business and it's being associated and related to what your organization really cares about and what matters most to you and your executives and your board and your customers. And that type of alignment with business objectives is another thing that we're looking to drive from day one, and making sure that we're focused on those high level outcomes and not just on the nitty gritty of their GRC processes.
I think that's great. Go ahead,
Jace. I was going to say, I think that's just such a key part of what we're doing in customer success, isn't it? You may well have been going to say the same thing, Jace, but aligning with business outcomes. And we've talked before, I mean, change management, as you said earlier on, is a huge area, and nobody's very comfortable with it. Businesses are now going through change at such rapid and accelerating pace. You look at something like the pandemic we're in now, businesses have to adapt so quickly to that, and people don't like it. And I think what a lot of businesses struggle with is they struggle with change management internally. And actually what we're doing as partners, as vendors, as service providers, is we're taking them through part of that change. And to actually have that focus for them on what the ultimate outcome is a really critical thing to do. And I love the way you've talked about how you've gone about approaching it, because I think it's the essence of customer success. How do we make sure they're delivering the right outcomes? And actually, often customers don't grasp what the real outcomes there are themselves. You know, how do you get them to step back and look at the big picture?
Yeah. And I love what you were saying as well about the changing the perception of the teams from being like the rule enforcers, because I think that's absolutely key. And I've worked with quite a few internal IT teams where they were perceived as the people who would deliver a system or were to blame and say, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that. And we worked with them to show how they could very easily change the perception of the organization to, no, IT is enabling your success and they're a partner with you. And it made such a huge difference, both from the way the end users did, but also just the satisfaction and eagerness of the IT team itself. It's huge. And I think that's a great way to really engage your customers and make their jobs easier and their lives better.
You talked earlier on about kind of the transformation you're doing on your team. Could you share some more details on that? I mean, what are some of the key drivers that's prompted you to rethink the key structure? Is it just your team? Is it the rest of the business? And what are some of the more detailed changes that you're looking at making as to how your team operates to better engage with your customers, to better lead and support your customers?
Yeah, great question. The restructure that we're going through right now is focused on our customer organization, but the real driver of it is that we want to make sure that we are delivering on the best customer experience for our customers. And one of the things that we have found as we have grown and we're looking to scale is with our customer success managers today wearing those multiple hats that we talked about earlier, naturally there's just a lot of what I call mental switching that they're having to do in their day-to-day. They might have to hop from a onboarding kickoff call immediately to addressing a support ticket that has come in and investigating a bug, and then hopping back to actually being in the tool and building and implementing. And they can do all these things. And that's one of the great things about the folks that we've hired, is they are fully capable of providing expertise in all these areas. But we know that all that mental switching is draining and it can lead to burnout over time. And so that, I would say, is the core thing, is in order to take care of our customers, we need to first take care of our people. And so that's really one of the tenets of how we've been thinking about this restructure, is how can we allow for our folks in our customer success and global customer organization to make the most of their time each day and make the most of each interaction that they're having with their customers, where they can bring their best selves and really deliver on the skill set that they need to deliver on, whether that is implementation. So we'll have a dedicated implementation services team that's really focused on time to value, whether that's ongoing support and driving adoption and growth through ongoing professional services, or whether it's focused on having and continuing that conversation that's aligned on business outcomes, which is what our go forward customer success team will be doing in partnership with our relationship management team.
Wow, fantastic. That's really cool stuff. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing your insights. As we always like to challenge our listeners to expand their comfort zones and to take bold action. That's part of our theme, is bold action, to really help them achieve better results and help their customers achieve better results. Based on your experience, what bold actions would you recommend CS leaders take to better structure their teams and evolve how they engage with customers, especially when they're working in a highly niche field that requires a lot of specific industry knowledge, like your field? Yeah,
I think one of the best pieces of advice I got when I started this journey in customer success leadership came from our CEO at LogicGate, and he told me that the most important thing I can do as a leader is to make sure that I'm hiring the right people. And I think that it can be really easy as a leader, especially when you're spinning up a new team or taking on a new team, to get bogged down in the day-to-day of defining procedures or building out processes, or just focus on program build-out. But I have definitely found that being intentional about investing time myself in focused on hiring, and even if that means maybe I get to spend less time with face-to-face with our customers, hiring the right people, getting that subject matter expertise on the team is worth it for any leader that is trying to build a team that is in a niche space like this and that has customers that require that level of expertise.
Wow, I think that's fantastic advice. And every CS organization that has struggled, it's been something related to hiring and staffing of who they have in there and the roles, expectations. I think you really offered some great insights. Thank you again so much for being here in Washington, D.C. I'm Jason Whitehead. Over in sunny London, we have Jason Noble. And coming to us from way out west, we have Szuyin Leow. Thank you from LogicGate. Thank you again so much. And if there's anything that you'd like to close with it, or any thoughts about your background, the industry, or your company, please go ahead and just share the last little bit.
Thanks, Jason. No, overall, I think as someone that is not originally from the customer success world, I have loved being able to apply my consulting background and kind of see the parallels in the passion around just delivering excellence in client service and being a true partner for customers. And I am excited to see how organizations like LogicGate can help to evolve the customer success space over time, whether that's in terms of bringing on more subject matter expertise or just embracing more of that consultative partnership approach with customers to focus on long-term business outcomes. Yeah, really excited to see what the future holds.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a fascinating discussion. I'm excited to see where this transformation of your organization grows and how you grow the customer organization even more with your customers.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.